Hi, everyone. If you're hearing that sound, you know what time it is. It's time for another episode of True Crime All the Time podcast. Welcome to episode 6. As always, I'm your host, Mike Ferguson. Sitting across from me is my co-host, Mike Gibby Gibson. Gibbs, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm liking the studio.
Studio's working out well.
Yeah,
We can see each other. We know when one person wants to talk and the other
that's right.
person's is done talking.
Not that I want to look at you, but at least it helps out.
I got that part for sure.
In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR.
As always, please visit our website at truecrimeallthetime.com. While you're there, click through the Amazon banner for any Amazon shopping. Click on our Patreon button. If you want to donate, you can support the show financially for as little as $1 a month. You can also use PayPal to help support the show. Make sure you click on our contact page. Follow us on Facebook at True Crime All the Time. Twitter at TC All the Time. And Instagram and Tumblr, all that information's there. Make sure you continue to share pages with your friends who like true crime or may like this podcast. I got to give a couple of shout outs today. Jess in Kentucky reached out to the show. She's got a case that she's very interested in, and she may even want to co-host on a future episode. So Jess and I are communicating about that. That's pretty exciting. Also, Natalie in Pennsylvania has been very active on Facebook, sharing our posts, and we love that. We love that interaction. Sharing either on Facebook or retweeting tweets on Twitter. Tweets on Twitter, that's hard to say. All that does is get us out to your friends who may be into true crime podcasts, and they'll check out the show as well. So continue to do that for us. Thank you. Gibby, you ready for this episode?
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. Hey, should I use my Keith Morrison voice?
Oh yeah, I didn't say that, did I?
Yeah.
So Keith Morrison actually replied to one of my tweets yesterday, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
She's like the voice of...
He is the voice of true crime. So to have
maybe he's listening.
To have Keith Morrison reach out to you, yeah, I was excited.
Maybe he can do a voiceover for us.
I retweeted that all over the place. So this episode's different for us. It's different in the fact that it centers around one murder. So we're not talking about spree killings, mass murder, serial killers, but this is a horrific murder. It involves the kidnapping, rape, and murder of an 8-year-old girl, and it's really the true identity of the murderer that shocks the country. I mean, this was well known. It was highly publicized at the time, made the national news for sure. So let's start talking about little 8-year-old Sandra Cantu, and you've got to look her up on the web. I mean, this girl was such a pretty little girl. Researching this story, I think was probably one of the hardest ones for me, Gibbs, just because of the subject matter.
Sure. It's rough on, I mean, you've got girls, I've got a girl, and I got a bunch of nieces and nephew, and I actually have a little niece that's 8 years old right now. So it definitely, it's tough. I mean, here you have this beautiful 8-year-old girl, second grade. She's one of the most overly friendly personalities from everything that I've read and viewed. And here she is. She lives in this Orchard Estates trailer park, which has like 100 residents in it, which is inside Tracy, California. And every resident in the trailer park just adores her. She's so friendly, and she visits a lot of them. See that it's probably not the best thing, but because there's definitely some strange individuals that live within inside this trailer park. But she, here she is. She's just a super beautiful little girl. Something tragic, ends up happening to her.
Well, and at 8 years old, like you said, she's probably overly trusting.
Sure, naive.
Yeah,
right.
maybe is the word, and we'll see as it plays out. But
just innocent, yeah.
So on March 27th, 2009, Sandra's playing at a friend's house after school until about 4 p.m., I think, when she returns home.
She walks towards her trailer in the trailer park. At 4 o'clock, she's seen on surveillance camera that the camera was actually put up by her grandpa a few weeks before because they were having some issues with some vandalism. So he put it up just to see if they can capture that. And you see her walking up to the trailer at 4 p.m. And then for whatever reason, something catches her attention, and she walks past the trailer. And at that point, she's, never seen again.
Yeah, I had read something about that it was thought that she may have told whoever dropped her off or whatever that she was going to play at another friend's house, maybe. And I don't know if I read that correctly or not, but either way, she doesn't return home.
No.
And by probably 6, 7 o'clock, the family's starting to get worried. Finally, at 7:53, they call the police. Police come out. They get the surveillance camera footage that you were talking about.
Right. And really, there's only two things on it. There's her walking up to the trailer about 4 o'clock. And then they notice the only other thing they see is about 4:08. They see one of the neighbors' vehicles driving past at 4:08 out of the park. Otherwise, there's nothing else on it. So, they're not sure what's going on. At that point, Tracy police, they call on the FBI, and the FBI sends in their CARD unit, which is their child abduction rapid deployment team. They're there within hours. And of course, they try to, they start putting together some timelines. They start doing some canvassing, interviewing. They also, during this time, they actually received their first tip. It's from a neighbor and the mother of a playmate of Sandra's. Sandra's playmate was Madison, a 6-year-old girl, and it was her mother, Melissa, that reported that her black suitcase was stolen out front of her trailer in this trailer park. She also called the trailer park manager and reported it stolen somewhere around 5 o'clock that day. So they go and they send a police officer. He talks to her. She tells him what happened, that she had it out on the front and it's missing. And she just says, it's a black suitcase about the size, basically big enough you could put a small body in it.
Little
strange. A little strange, but they kind of write it off, and they move forward with what to go back a little bit. The FBI CARD unit also has a behavior and analysis unit that comes with them, and as they put this together, they're saying, look, we're probably looking at, for a white male, mid-40s, was it, Mike?
I think it was 20 to 45.
20 to 45, that they would have knowledge of Sandra and her mom. They would have knowledge or live in the neighborhood.
I got that wrong. It was 25 to 40.
25 to 40. And so they're saying that's who we're looking for. That's probably who abducted her. And they also noted that the trailer park was butted up right next to one of the major highway. So it would be easy for someone to come off the highway, stroll through the park, and if they wanted to grab a little girl, they could grab the little girl fairly easy, be back on the highway and moving on.
Let me stop you there because there was a couple of things to go back to what you were saying earlier that jumped out at me. Number one, it looks like they had a very, you called it rapid deployment.
Right.
It looks like within a very short order, there was a lot of resources coming into this trailer park just based off of the call that, hey, my child didn't return home.
Right.
Now, this is 2009. In years past, that wouldn't have been the case.
No.
Right? Because you always hear about older stories where they talk about, well, you got to wait
24 hours.
24 hours.
Whatever it was.
And then you can file a missing persons report.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that applied to 8-year-old.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm
girls,
guessing
but
the age.
The
right,
age may have
played a little bit more into
ratcheted it up. But it does sound like, and a lot of times you hear about it took police a while to get going. I mean, we're talking about not only the police, but the FBI, this card unit that you mentioned. I read that, over the course of that weekend, they had dogs, they had horses,
they had
ATVs,
26 police detectives from the Tracy Police Department out there looking.
They brought in a helicopter from the Highway Patrol
doing thermal imaging scanning
from CHIPS,
yeah,
California Highway.
Yeah, they had 65 FBI agents out there walking.
That's a serious manpower that they put into.
Sure. And then top of that, you had just 200 residents. They had on average 200 residents that were helping by going out and searching different areas, trying to canvass neighborhoods and farms, and just, they had divers that were searching nearby pools and ponds, and cadaver dogs out searching. But they don't really find anything. They do find something at a town dump that is a pink shirt, just like she had on. But after they bring it to her mom, Maria, Maria's like, this is the wrong size. This is not her size. So it kind of puts them at ease. But they're also nervous because they know from what the FBI has told them that if you have been abducted and the person that abducted you plans on murdering you, they know from stats that the murder is going to occur within the first 3 hours of you being abducted. So they know that time is ticking. That's a concern.
First 3 hours.
Yeah, the FBI said the stat is, now this is in 2009.
Sure.
That if you're being abducted and the outcome is for you to be murdered, that they will murder you within the first 3 hours on average.
I guess it makes sense. It sounds quick.
I mean, these are just the stats that they had up to that point.
But
right?
I guess if you just sit and analyze why somebody abducts somebody else, if we're not talking about a ransom situation, which I don't believe most abductions would be,
right,
then you're talking about doing some kind of harm to somebody. So it would make sense that it would be that time frame. So one thing that I did have too, Mike, and I'm sure you have it in your notes, and I don't know how long it took to issue this. At some point, there was a $22,000 reward that was being offered for information in the case. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that surveillance camera footage that you talked about, that was splashed nationally. I mean, that made the national news.
Oh, I bet.
It was
girl.
everywhere. My understanding is that they had an early suspect, and it may have had something to do with the FBI profile that you mentioned. And again, right, every FBI profile, for the most part, is going to be a male between 25 and 40. Caucasian male,
right?
I should say, because
right.
That's what it was. Because statistically, most abductors, killers, serial killers, you name it,
that's the box that they all fit in.
Yeah, they tick, for the most part, the majority of them tick that box. Caucasian male between whatever age range you want to put on it.
But I think you're right. they do the search effort. They can't find anything, so the FBI and the Travis Police Department determined that
Travis or Tracy?
Tracy, I'm sorry, Tracy. So they figured the best place to canvass, and canvass pretty heavily, is the Orchard Park Trailer Park, right? There's 100 residents back there, and Tracy Police Department, detectives say, we got some interesting characters back here. Got some sexual registered sex offenders. We've got some drug users. We've got some just straight out weirdos.
Well, and
we haven't been able to pin anything on, but we have some weirdos back here.
Right, and we're not disparaging anybody that lives in a trailer park that's listening to this podcast. But
this is definitely a trailer park that had its pretty good mix of interesting characters. So, where Mike was headed was they have their first man that they're going to interview. He comes forward and admits that, and I think was it the summer before?
I had 2 years earlier.
Or 2 years earlier?
If you're heading down the same path, I think you are.
He's over at I guess it's the local pool, and he goes up to Sandra, which I guess would have been 6 at that time, and brushes her hair out of her face and kisses her. At that point, they talk to him, and he admits that he has a sexual fantasy about young girls, but he's never acted on it. And he admits that, yes, he did kiss her back then, and he was sorry, but nothing's ever moved forward from that. And they give him a polygraph, and he passes it, and so they have to move on to.
He's ultimately cleared.
Yeah, he's cleared.
Of any involvement, but let's dissect that for a minute, because this is a guy that was witnessed kissing a 6-year-old on the mouth,
right,
at a local swimming pool.
Yep, nothing really comes of it.
Yeah, I mean he's cleared, and we know that he didn't kill Sandra, but this guy's got
his own issues.
He might have a frog demon.
Right. I just wonder what happened.
He might have his own frog demon.
Wonder what kind of follow-up the police department did with him, So they clear this guy. So then there's the story about the ice cream truck driver that was told not to bring his vehicle into the trailer park because he was just known as a kind of a weirdo, sexual deviant guy. So they talk to him, but he reassures them that that day she was missing. He did show up to the park, but a couple of the adult males there made him leave the park, and he left immediately because he kind of feared. I don't want to say for his life, but he definitely feared that they would take issue with him being there. So he left, and the police verified that it was not an issue. Again, though, they do talk about how he was a strange individual and definitely had a past.
Well, he's a sexual deviant ice cream truck delivery
like the perfect
driver.
It's what you read in all the books, right? The ice cream man, the candy man.
I think if I'm living in that trailer park, I'm acting the same way. Don't come in here, get the hell out.
Exactly.
What out of you.
That's right. They're told about another strange resident in the trailer park. So they go and they investigate the stepfather and his stepson. And they immediately come forward and show the Tracy Police Department pictures on their phone of Sandra. And it's pictures with her pants unbuttoned or unzipped, sitting on their laps.
Mike, what in the hell is going on in this damn park?
It's a strange park.
Trailer park.
Yeah, it's not anywhere I would want to live.
It's
not against the trailer park. It's against the individuals living in this trailer park. It's pretty scary. Here they are. They're interviewing these guys, and so they show these pictures, and then the police look at their laptop, and they found other inappropriate pictures of underage girls on there. They find some stuffed animal inside the trailer that was used for some form of masturbation. They don't really get into the details, but
I'm going to need details
it's-
on this because I'm not following the
yeah, I don't
how
know.
the stuffed animal that was used for. What I thought you were going to say was the stuffed animal had like some like camera in it or something.
No,
That's the path I thought you were
it's like a
headed
little
down.
surveillance camera in there.
Yeah.
No, it was used for I don't know. I guess they masturbated on it. I really don't know. And they both had a previous history. And the interesting thing is they both failed the polygraph. Bits and pieces of their story just didn't come out to be true. So they were being investigated a little bit further, but nothing where no arrests were made. So they're just looking into their stories, trying to put a timeline together on this stepfather and stepson.
These are bad guys, but they're bad guys that were found to have ultimately not had anything to do with the
Ultimately,
murder of
of this one.
Sandra Cantu. They probably did some other stuff, but
that or hopefully they were arrested for something. Definitely very.
I hope
very
they took
strange individuals.
I hope they took that bear for DNA evidence and further cases.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they put their gloves on. It's about 3 nights into it. I know it's not a week yet, but they're holding a prayer vigil at the trailer park. Lots of people are there. The candles are lit, things like that. The good neighbor next door, which was Sandra's best friend's mom, she comes pretty frantic up to the detectives on site at the prayer vigil, because on her way to the prayer vigil, she comes across a note that was laid in a general area. And when she went to pick the note up, she seen on it that the note said something to the effect that it said Cantos is located at the intersection of Bachette and Waterhall Road. She's in the suitcase in the water, and it was signed witness.
And my understanding is that it had much like we talked about in the last episode, it had a lot of misspellings.
Yeah, it had the really simple words misspelled.
Right.
Which again is somebody thinking that they're smarter than the police, that they're throwing them off, that this is some idiot writing the note. But they're misspelling, again, like most of the ones you talk about, Mike, they're misspelling the simple word.
The easy ones.
And then spelling perfectly the harder words.
Right. Now, this note that she finds and she talks to the police about, this was, a few days later. We'll call it a few.
Yeah.
But did we talk about the text message that she sends on the day of the disappearance?
Well, you talking about the neighbor?
Yes.
When the neighbor sends a text message to her grandma.
No. So what I had was that the neighbor, Melissa,
Right.
sends a text message to Sandra's mother.
Okay.
On the day of the disappearance.
Oh,
so this goes back to
day one.
Day one, and she says in this text message, "Tell the police that I had something stolen around 4 p.m. today." I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of what the text message
Well, and that
said.
makes sense because she's called the police, right? And she's the first tipster because she calls the police and talks about how her suitcase was stolen out front of her house.
Right.
Trailer.
We're going back to your story.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you mentioned.
No, I didn't. No, I knew that she called the police. She called the trailer park manager to report it stolen.
Yes, and she had also sent, which I thought was very strange, a text message to Sandra's mother saying something similar.
Yeah, and she does some strange things, because the other strange thing that she did was that Sandra's older sister, Miranda, spent the night at the neighbor's house, Melissa's house, on the second day after her sister was missing. Probably helped the mom out.
How old's Miranda? Do you know?
Just older. I don't know if she's 9. So she spends the night, and when she's there, the one thing that she does tell her mom when she sees her the next day was that she was very, very calming, and that she she did ask me if the police or if us, the family, have they found any more evidence. And of course, she's young, so she doesn't really know. So, she tells her no. So back to this vigil. So she finds this note. The police, obviously take it, and they go to look at the site, which is about 2.5 miles away from the trailer park. And so they look into the area, and it has like 7, 8 large ponds. Most of them are irrigation ponds used for the farms around there. Some of them are some sewage runoff.
And just to make sure I'm clear, this is Buckheady and Whitehall Road.
Yeah, Buckheady and Whitehall, the intersection there. Okay. So they're looking at the many different ponds. Some are irrigation. Most are irrigation ponds used for the farming. There's 1 or 2 that are like the cow farm runoff. So it's pretty murky, pretty nasty water. But there's no ponds that are clear. So there's none of the ponds the divers can go into. They make attempts to see if they can find anything over there, but basically at this point they come up empty. However, they're intrigued by this neighbor that keeps interjecting herself into the case. She's the first one that gives a tip. She's the one that finds this sporadic note and brings it to their attention. Like Mike said, she's sending a text to the mom on the first day, kind of a strange text to send. So all these things are just kind of seeming a little bizarre.
But at this point, they're writing it off as her being weird, I think.
Yeah, they're just kind of thinking she's kind of strange. But
I will say, and you'll see this in a lot of cases where it is said that person that wants to help, that wants to interject themselves into an investigation, is oftentimes a person that has had something to do with it. Not all the time, but I've heard that said before.
Well, a lot of times they think they're smarter than the police, so they think that they can do that without the police cluing in. But we find time and time again that that's not the case. So
at this point, they've been out to Buckheady and Whitehall. They've searched all the different ponds and irrigation ponds and all these different bodies of water. They didn't find anything.
They haven't found anything.
True Crime All the Time is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, therapy can feel like a big investment, but let's think about the state of your mind. It's just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up really fast. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. And you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. I've used the BetterHelp service for years. And I love the fact that, I can connect with a therapist in a comfortable spot in my home on my laptop. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/TCAT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TCATT. Even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details.
So the police at that point, they have a little bit of suspicion. They think she's a little weird, but they decide to go ahead and let's go take a search of her car. They search her car. This is Melissa, the neighbor. They search her car and they find what is like a scratched out. There's 3 words on a blue Post-it note, and each of the words are heavily scratched out. So they find that, and that's all they find. So they take that. The FBI takes that back, and they, through their technology, they're able to lift the scratch off to see what, because there's variations in the ink that was used. They are able to see 3 words. They're able to see the intersection, the 2 street names, and then they see the word water. So right then, their suspicions rise, right? Because they're seeing, for whatever reason, she wrote down the 2 street names and the word water.
You know what that means? Don't mess with the FBI.
Exactly.
Because the FBI will figure out a way to get you.
They've got the tools. So the police at that point go back and search her trailer. And at the trailer, they do find the full blue Post-it notepad that this one was torn off of. So they have that. But they don't really have any other type of evidence or anything to really go at her for.
But she's coming up the list. I mean, she's rising to the top at this point.
Absolutely. And they're looking into her. They know she's a single mom. She's a Sunday school teacher. Grandpa's the pastor at the Clover Road Church. She's got a 6-year-old daughter, Madison, which was the best friend of Sandra. So they know this part of her. They haven't really dove too much into her rest of her history yet, but at this point they know this. So they want to just kind of clear her, and they want to have her do a lie detector test.
Polygraph.
They want her to do a polygraph. So they head over to do that. When they get there, they find out that earlier that day, she started swallowing razor blades.
As you would.
As
anyone would.
Normal for that park, I guess.
Yeah.
So she swallows a bunch of razor blades. She's taken to the hospital. So they can't communicate with her. They can't do the polygraph. As we find out, she's going to be in there for about 5 days. So, but during this time, they kind of look into her history, and they see that she has a previous petty theft arrest, that she was involved and accused in an arson, but never
formally
charged with it. They find out she's bipolar. They look at some medical records, and she's bipolar, anxiety, depression. Another neighbor in the park that was upset with her because she took her daughter out of the park without her permission, and the daughter tells her mom how, Melissa gave her something to drink, and it made her kind of foggy and clumsy, and made her not feel well. And Melissa brings her home and acts like, I don't know what's wrong with your daughter. I thought you were okay with me taking her out of the park to go play at another place. This girl's name is Melody. Her mom and dad rush her to the ER. Eventually she's fine, right? Enough time goes by, it wears off. But definitely something was in her system. But at that time, they don't really look into it, and nothing happens with Melissa, and everybody goes home, and it just moves on from there. So we're a week into it. All of a sudden, there's a local farmer, and what's his name, Mike?
Jose,
the local farmer. Him and another farmer are in the irrigation ponds trying to clear some things, and they see a suitcase that surfaced and washed up against the shore of the pond. And they notice that the zippers are tied tightly with some type of white cordage. So, of course, they call the authorities. The authorities come. They get it out of the water, and they take the suitcase back to I don't want to say it wasn't the crime lab. It's the coroners. So the coroner gets it and starts his process. And, of course, he cuts the white cord, opens up the suitcase. Now, the suitcase happens to be a black suitcase. big enough to probably fit a body in. As we find out, it actually has the body in it.
Might be Eddie Bauer edition.
Maybe Eddie Bauer edition, sure. The nice leather, yeah. So they open up the suitcase. Unfortunately, they find Sandra in it. They find that she's dressed in the clothes that she wore. She's in the fetal position. So at this point, they go ahead and they do their typical examination. They do the blood test. During the blood test, that comes back that they did find a drug called benzo. I think it's benzozine. What is the drug, Mark?
It's actually Xanax. I mean, it's from the benzo family.
Okay.
But what I read was it was actually Xanax.
So they find this in her system, enough medicine to knock an adult out,
Right.
let alone a little girl.
But I got to go back to my Eddie Bauer comment. And the reason why I said Eddie Bauer is because that is what Melissa Huckaby reported stolen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Which is why she reports stolen. I mean, because it's a high-end.
Yeah, it was a high-end
suitcase.
I actually had it that it was an Eddie
Bauer.
Eddie Bauer.
Okay.
I wasn't making a joke. So.
Yeah. Sound like a joke.
I
So,
got you.
so they find out she's got the benzo or the Xanax in her system. But the reason she died was that the cause of death was being smothered.
So if we're into the pathologist report now, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have more. I just have that she was drugged, undressed, sexual assaulted, dressed back again, smothered, and then put back in the suitcase.
Right. So what the notes that I wrote were from the pathologist report. Sandra had been strangled with a torn piece of cloth that had been knotted into some type of noose. I think they listed the official cause of death as homicidal asphyxiation, which I guess would make sense.
Well, they say they used a rag that had the rubbing alcohol soaked in it because, like I said, it speeds up the process.
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't see that. And then I think, and this is the part that is a little hard to talk about, but the report shows that she was sexually assaulted as well. I think that's where we're going to get into, and I don't know how to jump to that part.
Well, I think we got a few things. So
we'll leave it at this point that the pathologist was able to show that she was sexually assaulted.
Right. So the suitcase is found. Of course, it makes the news. And so that night, when the body was found, Melissa texts her grandma around 10 o'clock and says, I see that they say that area is a crime scene, meaning the intersection of Bouchette and Whitehall. And then she follows up with another text around 10:10 saying, I hope she was not sexually assaulted. So kind of a weird text message to send your grandma about this. But so she sends these two text messages. Now with the suitcase as evidence for the police, they have the actual suitcase, which happens to look just like the one that Sandra's neighbor, Melissa, called in missing.
And same manufacturer, as we said.
Same Eddie Bauer.
Same color.
Same color. Everything. So they have this evidence. So then they start talking to the little girl, Melody's mom, about when she was taken out of the park and how she wasn't feeling good. And they went back to the hospital that she was at, and they were able to get the blood tested again, and they found the same Xanax that was in her system. And then the story came out about Melissa had a boyfriend, and he was arrested about a month prior to this for DUI. However, when they talked to him, he said, look, I was with her. She gave me a sports drink. It tasted funny. She told me to go ahead and drink it anyway. I drank half of it. Didn't want to drink it. Got up and left. Next thing I know, I am passed out in my car. Police are knocking on my window. And they are asking me if I've been drinking. I haven't. They arrested me anyway. Take me to the hospital. Draw my blood. There's no alcohol in it. And of course, the police retest that blood and find out that he had Xanax in his system, a strong strength of it as well, this benzoate. So at this point, they're putting the pieces together. They're seeing that Well, she's tested it on one kid. She's tested it on a larger person, her boyfriend. And during this time, because the suitcase story comes out and hits the news, there's a local couple. I believe he's a retired Marine. They call the police and say, we noticed a vehicle on the night that this girl was missing. First reported missing. It was a strange vehicle pulled over by a ditch. And so the police interview them, and they basically describe Melissa.
Well, I think for one thing, they had recognized her from the television.
Right. So they
didn't know who she was before.
But they recognized the vehicle as well.
Yeah.
Her vehicle. And they interview her and him, and they're like, she came up from the ditch, and she had, and I don't remember what story she told them, but she had a good story.
She had to pee.
Is that what it was?
That's from my understanding.
She had to take a squat.
I just had to take a squirt real quick, and
okay.
Then I'm going to get back to my car.
So, they believe her. They move on. It's just another night until they see that this suitcase was found over there. And they see her picture. So everything starting to come together.
I mean, the dominoes are falling pretty quickly at this point.
Right.
I mean, there's still more evidence to come, but there's a lot of dominoes that are falling into place.
She's got some background history. She's got some issues with being bipolar. She's taken some medications. She's got issues with depression. And I think what eventually we see is that, she's also has issues with, she likes attention on her, and she doesn't like anybody to come between the attention that she gets from her daughter.
And we're talking about Melissa.
Let's go to back up a little bit, and the police are ready to search the church where she works as a Sunday teacher.
This is where the shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah. So they search her Sunday school room and immediately realize that there was a window shade cord missing where someone cut it off and retied it. And that same cord matches the cord that was found on the suitcase. So they take that, bag it up, so they can go ahead and do their analysis on it.
Domino.
At the same time, as they're searching the church, they find a metal-like rolling pin that is bent on one end and has small sections of blood on it. It's alarming. They bag it up so they can, test that as well.
Domino.
Yep. So at this point, they are running the DNA test on these items. Around this same time as they're waiting for the DNA to come back, you got to remember that the police, because of the FBI, because of the abduction, they had live tap wires on Sandra's mom's phone. And so I just want to bring that up because what happens is that Melissa is getting out of the hospital. Finally, after swallowing those razor blades, she's released. Of course, the police would like to interview her. But during this time, they find out that Melissa's grandpa, which happens to be the pastor of this church, he's gone and he's taking Melissa's daughter. So there's nobody at the trailer. So she's headed back to the trailer, and she gets to her trailer and she calls. And at this point, the innocence is still there. That's nothing to do with her. So she makes a call to Sandra's mom and asks if her daughter, the other daughter, can come over and play with her daughter. Knowing the police hear this, the FBI does, and they know that the other daughter's not there. There's nobody there. So they know that something's up.
All right. I got to stop you because I'm confused. You talking about the older daughter?
The older
Cantu daughter?
The older Cantu daughter.
Okay.
She's asking if she can come over and play with her 6-year-old daughter, which isn't even home, right? But they don't know that.
I got you.
But the police know that.
Because they're monitoring.
Because they're monitoring her. Right. So at that point, the police decide that they don't think that Maria will send her other daughter over to the house, but they don't know. So they dispatch officers immediately to go to the trailer. Of course, they arrive. Maria's oldest daughter, Sandra's oldest sister, is not in there. But at that point, they decide to place Melissa under arrest, and they decide to take her downtown because at this point, they've got some DNA results back, enough that they feel they can move forward. So,
well, is this where I was going with the pathology report, but I stopped because
I think so.
Yeah. So
if you want to jump back in now.
Right. So according to the pathologist, and, you know, I didn't want to get too far ahead because we hadn't talked about the search of the church. It was noted that some of Sandra's injuries it was consistent with the rolling pin with the bent handle that they found in the church.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to wait to say that until we had actually said they found the rolling pin. The other thing that the pathology report revealed was that the blood smudge that you had talked about did match Sandra's blood. And
they had DNA on both handles.
Yeah. And at that point, there was no doubt anymore that this was the object that the little girl had been sexually assaulted with.
So the police confront her. They're in the interview room. They interview her for about 5 hours. And some of this you can see on YouTube if you really want to go out there and look at it. Of course, during this 5 hours of interview, you know, she's denying she has anything to do with it until they finally, okay, we've had enough. You know, you're not going to tell us, so we're going to go ahead and tell you. We have eyewitnesses. And they bring up the eyewitnesses of the couple that saw her on the side of the road when she was supposed to be taking a pee off the side of the road there by the ditch where they found the body and the suitcase. Once they confront her with that, all of a sudden, she just cries out that it was an accident, that it was a game of hide and seek that her daughter and Sandra were playing, and it's a game of hide and seek that went bad, that she forgot that Sandra got into the suitcase and her daughter zipped it up, and she was playing hide and seek in the suitcase, and that when she found the suitcase in the back of her car and opened it up, that Sandra was not breathing, she was dead. So at that point, she thought the best thing to do was to go ahead and put the suitcase in the pond. And at that point, she denied any sexual assault happened on her part.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership is free, and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up. Hey folks, see if you've ever had this problem. You're trying to eat a little healthier, but you're in the grocery store aisle, you're looking at packaging, nutrition labels, and they're so confusing, you don't know what's good for you and what's not. Well, this is why I love Thrive Market, my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered, and I don't even have to leave my couch. Finding better options for the whole family is easy with Thrive Market's Healthy Swap Scanner. Just scan a product, and it instantly recommends healthier swaps. This is how my wife and I found our new favorite snack, IQ bars. Sometimes I eat one in the morning with my coffee. Sometimes just later on in between meals, They also have so many on-site filters that make it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in the family. Maybe you have someone who needs gluten-free food, somebody that has a peanut allergy. Well, no more scouring ingredient labels when you can just filter it all on Thrive Market. My wife and I often use the high protein filter to stock up on things like Sieti chips. Ready to make the switch? Go to thrivemarket.com/TCAT for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/TCATT. thrivemarket.com/TCAT.
At that point,
I got to go back.
okay.
I got to go back because there was one piece of evidence that I think we didn't talk about, and it was some surveillance video from the church that they had, and it was showing Melissa where she taught the church where she taught Sunday school,
Right.
showing her driving away from the church, and they pieced that together time wise, and then 30 minutes later returning to that church. And they pieced it together time wise with the couple, the Marine
Right.
that spotted her, that they were able to pinpoint it that it was during that 30-minute time frame
When she dumped the body.
that she was spotted at the irrigation pond. So
Yeah.
not to back up, that's something I had in my notes that I wanted
No,
to
I mean,
make
it's
sure I
good
got in.
because they go back and they get her laptop. And on their laptop, they see, so they know it's premeditated from what they find on her laptop. Because on her laptop, weeks before this, they find an article that she saved about a young murderer, that the body was placed in a suitcase, and the suitcase was used to dispose of the body. So, and they find other things about the rubbing alcohol on the rag and how it speeds it up.
You've got to be careful with your Google searches.
Yeah, learn how to clean those out.
If anybody is following the what's that guy in Atlanta, Ross Harris, the guy that left his child in the backseat of the car. I don't know, Mike, if you're following that at all, but the Google search history was such a huge part of his trial. They ultimately convicted him, but he had searched
there's
childless life, and I mean just all these
there's
different
nothing
things.
that you erase that can't be found.
Yeah.
So,
Well, don't be searching crazy stuff as it is. But
yeah,
if you
are, unfortunately, we're searching some crazy stuff for this stuff. So
that's true.
Sorry,
I'm throwing you off your game.
Yeah, that's all right though. So they at this point they know it's premeditated. They know she's guilty. They start collecting the evidence. They put the timeline together, so they know on the 27th at 4:00, she's come home from school or from playing with her friend after school. At 4:08, they see the neighbor's car going past the camera, which turns out to be Melissa's car. So that point, they know when you see Sandra walk off camera at 4:00, she's walking over to Melissa's house. Melissa's calling her over there. Melissa's having her jump into the car to go. She tells her, let's go to church with me. We'll do something fun. She gets in. So at 4:08, she drives past her own house on camera. We know at that point she's given a laced drink at the church that has the Xanax in it, enough to knock out a full-grown adult, let alone a little 8-year-old. At that point, she's unconscious. She's sexually assaulted with a rolling pin. She, at that point, somehow, between the strangling and the smothering with the rag soaked in rubbing alcohol, she's dead. She gets redressed. She gets placed in the suitcase in the fetal position. They tie it closed with part of the cord from off the shade, the blind in her Sunday school classroom. At 5:00, Melissa calls the trailer park manager and reports her suitcase stolen from in front of her trailer. And we know at 5:50, around 5:50 is when the witnesses see her at the pond. So before Sandra's mom even calls the police with concerns of her being missing, now we know that it happened so fast that her daughter was already dead by the time she was reported missing.
Right, because we know from what we said in the very beginning, the family doesn't call the police until 7, almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
7:53.
exactly.
I think.
And we also find out from the FBI behavior people that typically, if someone is going to be abducted, with the end being murder, that the murder is going to happen within the first 3 hours. Again, that's proven here. That's what happens.
Happened pretty quick.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, they got her, right? They know it's her,
Right.
and are we ready to talk about arrest?
Sure.
Or you got some other stuff?
No, I was going to talk about her plea deal. So yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Melissa is arrested April 10th, 2009. They charge her with kidnapping, rape, and the murder of Sandra Cantu. We talked about the black Eddie Bauer suitcase that belonged to Huckaby. And we've got some audio of her arraignment that I wanted to play.
May City come to order. Department 35 now session. The Honorable Richard Blavianis presiding.
Melissa Huckaby, felony arraignment, no holds.
Ms. Huckaby is present. You want Ms. Huckaby down the seat?
I think she's fine where she is, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Huckaby, there's been a complaint filed in case number SF111539A that alleges in count 1 of murder, and that on or about March 27th of 2009, the crime of murder in violation of Section 187 of the Penal Code of Felony was committed by Melissa Huckaby, who at the time and place last aforesaid did willfully and unlawfully and intentionally, with malice aforethought, murder Sandra Cantu, a human being. There are 3 special circumstances alleged. In the first special circumstance, it is further alleged that the murder of Sandra Cantu was committed by defendant Melissa Huckaby while the said defendant was engaged in the commission of the crime of kidnapping in violation of Penal Code Sections 207 and 209. In the second alleged special circumstance, it is further alleged that the murder of Sandra Cantu was committed by Melissa Huckaby while the said defendant was engaged in the commission, attempted commission, or immediate flight after the commission or attempted commission of the crime of performance of lewd and lascivious acts upon the person of a child under the age of 14 in violation of Penal Code Section 288 within the meaning of Penal Code Section 190.2, parentheses A, parentheses 17, parentheses E. In the third special circumstance, it is further alleged that the murder of Sandra Cantu was committed by Melissa Huckaby while said defendant was engaged in the commission, attempted commission, or immediate flight after the commission or attempted commission of the crime of rape by instrument in violation of Penal Code Section 289 within the meaning of Penal Code Section 190.2A17K. It also put on notice that the evidence presented at the preliminary hearing will also be used for any violation of probation and a request for discovery. Ms. Huckaby, Public Defender's Office, Ms. Schwarzenberg represents you on another case in front of the court. Did you want that office to represent you on this case as well? Then I'll go ahead and appoint the Public Defender's Office on this case as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Schwarzenberg, did you have a moment to talk to her, or do you need a moment to talk to her?
I did speak with her very briefly, Your Honor, and with regard to the complaint that's before the court, we are not at this time entering a plea, and we are requesting that the matter be continued to the 24th of April for further arraignment in connection with this matter. I understand that she's had a medication evaluation. I would ask that further medication evaluation be commenced.
I'll order further medication evaluation. And you want the case to come back on the 24th?
I do, Your Honor. Also, in light of the publicity that this matter has garnered, I am requesting that the court at this time make an order prohibiting both sides from discussing the case within the media.
Mr. Testa, did you have any comments about this one?
I'll submit it, Your Honor.
All right, so just some audio of her arraignment. I think towards the end, Gibbs, I want to talk a little bit about women killers, and I know we've got some statistics and stuff that we'll go over. But so ultimately, Huckaby pleads guilty, but not in the beginning.
No, but eventually she does the plea deal, right?
Right.
For life in prison.
But originally she pleads not guilty
Right.
and changes her mind.
Well, I think that she pleads on this one because the agreement to the plea is that they can't say she's sexually assaulted. She doesn't
And she
want that.
avoids the death penalty.
Right.
Right.
Right. But
By pleading guilty.
she wanted to make sure that wasn't part of it.
So,
And she also, I mean, even to this day, right? You know, she never would say why she did it.
well, we're going to hear that
Oh, okay.
in some of the tapes. But so she's sentenced to life without parole. The sentencing for Melissa Huckaby, to me, was very emotional. And you're going to hear that because I got a couple of clips on the sentencing. You can see it on YouTube in video form. And it starts out, and they're in the courtroom. You're going to hear some music playing. What you won't be able to see is that they're showing pictures of Sandra Cantu as this music is playing. And it's just like a slideshow of her, through the years. It's very, very sad.
Yeah. Difficult to view.
No, very. And then what you'll hear after that is Sandra's aunt and Sandra's father both speak. And then Melissa's mother. So Melissa Huckaby, the killer, her mother is going to speak to the Cantu family. So let's listen to that.
In my dream, you are alive and well, precious child, precious child. In my mind, I see you clear as a bell, precious child.
We can now rest and know that she will never be able to do this again, and that she will have to think about what she has done for the rest of her natural-born life. Sandra wasn't the only victim affected by what she has done. Our family, the Tracy community, and the whole world became victims when she murdered Sandra.
I don't believe that in my heart I should hate everything I've. You took the life of an innocent little girl, and she didn't do nothing. She's not even old enough to decide to eat ice cream yet. I stand at my job, and nothing changes, and nothing's gonna change the fact whether I cry
Maria and Mr. Cantu, if I could give you justice, the justice that you deserve, that would be to have your baby girl in your arms right now. From mother to mother, I'm so sorry.
All right, so pretty emotional stuff. Sandra's father is actually kind of hard to understand because he was so emotional. At one point, I think he says, "I don't feel like I should hate." And then, Melissa's mother talking to the Cantu family, that's got to be hard for her too. But the next clip is, it's actually Melissa Huckaby talking at her sentencing. So let's listen to that.
Words cannot convey how badly I feel for the pain that I have caused you. It is not enough that I say I am sorry, but that is all I can do. From the day Sandra has died, I've had to live with the consequences of what I've done. For the rest of my life, I'm going to have to live with these feelings of responsibility for her death. Not a day, not an hour goes by that I don't think of the harm that I caused. I loved Sandra a great deal. She was a sweet, innocent little girl who did not deserve to have such a short life. I alone are responsible for Sandra's death. I would like to apologize directly to you, Maria, for all of the pain that I've caused. I should not have taken Sandra from you, and I want you to know that she did not suffer and I did not sexually molest your daughter. I would also like to apologize to Sandra's extended family. I know that I have caused you a great deal of grief, and for that I am truly sorry. I would also like to apologize to my own family for what I have put them through. I'm grateful that they have continued to stand by me, and I thank you for your unconditional love and support. I know how hard this has been for you as well, but you've continued to stand by me, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. I would also like to apologize to my own daughter, whom I've lost. I hope that someday you will forgive me. I love you a great deal, and I hope to see you again someday soon. I owe an apology to the people of Tracy and the police officers who spent so much time looking for Sandra. I know that this has touched each of you personally, and for that I'm truly sorry. I know in my heart that God has forgiven me, and I know my family has forgiven me, and I'm asking you, Maria, for your forgiveness. I can't imagine forgiving somebody who would harm my own daughter, but I hope that someday you can forgive me. Maria, I wish I could give you an explanation for what happened. I owe you an explanation. But I still cannot understand why I did what I did. Every day I try to discover my motivation, but I still do not have an answer. This is a question I will struggle with for the rest of my life. I wish that I could do more to help you. I wish I could bring Sandra back, but I can't. I wish I could trade places with her, but I can't do that either. I know that Sandra's death will continue to cause you pain. And I hope that this apology will help you in some way by accepting responsibility for what I have done. I hope that I can give you some peace. Thank you.
This is what I took away from that. We covered the Raider sentencing in our last episode, and I didn't buy any of the crocodile tears. I don't know what you thought, Mike. I thought there was some remorse there. What pissed me off about it was when she denied the sexual assault.
Right.
From everything I read, that was proven.
Sure.
No doubt.
And the family knew that, so it just voids anything she said.
Right.
But the part I didn't like was, I hate when they start out with, I love the victim too.
Yeah. Well, why'd you kill her?
If you love the victim, why would you, you didn't love the victim.
So, a couple of things just quickly from that. She doesn't understand why she did what she did. She begs Sandra's mother for forgiveness. And she says, this is a question I will struggle with for the rest of my life. So that's it. I mean, that's the case. But let's talk about why. I mean, what happened was horrible. A little girl, just a beautiful, sweet, innocent little girl, lost her life.
Which is rare, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to talk about statistics.
Yeah, I mean, we know
she's killed by a 27-year-old Sunday school teacher.
Right. Which is rare in itself, right? A female killer.
Very rare.
But even more rare that you have a female child, right? Which accounts for less than 10% of murders. So, I mean, it's just a small, everything here it's the rarity.
When you drill down the statistics,
right,
you get to a point where a 27-year-old Sunday school teacher sexually assaulting and killing an 8-year-old girl, that is less than 10, whatever, less than 1%. It's 1/10 of a percent.
Right.
I don't know what the real number is, but it's very small. Now, there were some things about Melissa, and you touched on the point that at one point she swallowed a bunch of razor blades, which
X-Acto
is
knife, razor blades.
crazy as all get out.
Right.
That makes a lot more sense now that you said. I was like, those razor blades are big.
She took the easy way out.
She took the little ones.
She took the little ones.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of information on her and her history of mental health problems. It was said that she had borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. There was a lot of talk about her cutting herself at different points in her life.
And more important,
that she was a cutter.
More importantly, we have to remember she was a confessed true crime show fanatic.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
For the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people that are listening to this show.
Yeah. I mean, she confessed that she's just a crime show fanatic.
But most of y'all are great. We
Yeah.
love you. But so she was a cutter. She was an arsonist. From some things that I read, she had a history of setting fires.
Never convicted, but she definitely was accused of two arsons.
Yeah. And there was something that I wrote down that I read. I don't know if it's a psychologist looked at this case and they thought that this could have been one of those instances of Munchausen by proxy syndrome. I don't know how familiar you are with that, Mike. But
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know how that would play.
Normally, it's basically where, in a lot of cases I see, you make your own child sick so that you get attention.
Right.
Like, my child is sick. I'm telling my friend.
Right.
And I'm getting all this boo-hoo, woe is me.
They did say that she loved attention.
Right.
She didn't like attention being taken away from her.
And there was a lot of talk about that could have been, a big part of the motivation for this, although it doesn't seem to fall in line with most of the Munchausen by proxy things that I've seen. So, but anyway, it's a very interesting case. It's a very sad case because of the victim, Sandra Cantu. We'll have some pictures up of both of them, on the different social media. Somehow Melissa Huckaby gained like 100 pounds in between the time that she was arraigned and her sentencing. I don't know how long that took, but I'll show you. I'll put the pictures up.
Right. Yeah.
Depression. What the hell are they feeding them in jail? She must have had a big time commissary account or something, because she did. I mean, the pictures are like amazing how much weight she gained in that period of time. All right, Gibby, we're wrapping up episode 6. I appreciate it. We appreciate all you listeners and everything you do.
Give us feedback.
Yeah, continue to give us feedback. Reach out to us. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the Facebook page. Share with your friends. So for Ferg and Gibby.
And Keith Morrison.
And Keith Morrison, who did tweet me. Stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Shopify's point-of-sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.